What's up, Times News people? It's NFL draft season and we're back again. Last time you saw the four of us, we were stuck in the pandemic and we still are, but it didn't stop the NFL draft. And I'm Justin Carlucci here with Jarrad, Hedes, Jason Boris, and Emmett, McCall. Gentlemen, how are you? I'll toss it over to you first, Jarrad. You know, you're a notorious Giants fan and we'll talk New York Giants football eventually, but what are your thoughts in a nutshell on this draft? And then I'll hop over to Emmett and then we'll let Jason Boris do his thing for a little bit.
Well, it's going to be interesting. You know, obviously after the first two, I think we know how that's going to go. But then, we'll see which quarterback San Francisco wants to get there at number 3. I think everybody would agree that's where the draft will get going. And if you had asked me right now, I'd tell you, Mac Jones on my list for the Niners there at 3, and then we'll take off from there. As for the Giants, we'll get down to them eventually. It might be hard for Gettleman to screw this one up. He's going to have hopefully a receiver there to take, but we'll see. He's got hopefully Joe Judge is running more things than he is this year. So we'll see how that goes. But I think it'll be a receiver for my Giants there when we get down to that point.
We'll get there. Big shout out to the Lehigh Valley Health Network, one of our big sponsors, Lehigh Valley Health Network. Emmett, McCall, sports editor, Times News. What are the birds going to do? You have a headache thinking about it?
No, I don't. I think it's pretty obvious. Cornerback, wide receiver. There should be some of each out there for them. I think they need both pretty badly. So I think they'll draft a receiver who was probably projected about 20 spots lower than they're going to take him, and it's going to work out badly again for them. So
everything is fine. Everything's fine. And last but certainly not least, Jason Boris, welcome back. I know this is always a busy, chaotic week for you trying to figure out who's going where in the NFL draft. And if you're not aware of what Jason Boris does, pay attention to the Times News this week. He releases a huge mock draft article, and he's nationally ranked with the big boys. Jason, how long have you been prognosticating the NFL draft? And some of the results are here on the screen if you all can check it out. I mean, we have names like the LA Times, San Diego Union Tribune, the Huddle Report, the Philly Voice, Sports Illustrated, and of course the Times News. I mean, big player in the game. So here we are. Jason, how long have you been doing this? It's great to have you on, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on the draft, which is coming up on Thursday.
Yeah, it's always fun to do this with you guys. So I've been doing the draft since I can't even put a time on it, but ever since I started following football, probably when I was in elementary school, I started taking an interest, penciling in some picks, trying to match players with teams, grew into a hobby, and I've just been doing it ever since. This year will be my 21st straight mock draft that has appeared in the Times News. But I probably have been putting out mock drafts for probably closer to 30, 35 years.
Wow.
Pretty impressive. And like you said, nationally ranked in the Huddle Report. He's over the last 5 years, he's 9th overall. Just a couple of years ago, he was actually number 1 in their list of 5-year averages. And he appears on radio stations. What are you doing this week? You're doing one for a radio station in Denver, Jason?
Yeah, I was on a couple times last year with the same group of guys, KOA Radio in Denver, flagship station of the Colorado Rockies and Denver Broncos. There'll be a lot of Broncos talk going on. But yeah, it's always great to chat in with those guys and get the Times News out there to the West Coast and all sorts of other areas that probably don't even know what the Times News is.
There's probably nobody except you within a 90-mile radius who has ever had the opportunity to borderline communicate with Peyton Manning. So talk to me about the radio show you were on a few years ago. How'd you get in? Are you in cahoots with Peyton Manning? Peyton Manning and the governor of Colorado? How was that?
I mean, the second time I was on the Logan Lewis show, it was a 3-guest panel, and it was myself, Peyton Manning, and the governor of Colorado. So that's
Which one of those things doesn't belong, guys? What do you
I didn't
think?
find that out until after the fact. So going in, I had no idea.
So here we are, and you're 9th in the 5-year average, ahead of Evan Silva from Establish the Run, formerly Roto World. Everybody loves Evan Silva. Well, Jason Boris got you by a no. Oh, actually, you're tied.
Tied.
Yeah. But you kicked his butt last year, it looks like. So, pretty brutal year for everyone, but it looks like Silva had the lowest score out of anybody. That was kind of shocking. I didn't even realize that before. Wow. Last year, it was harder to get information, right? The pandemic just started. Things were just insane. How's it been from last year to this year? Is it any different at all, Jason?
Yeah, I feel it's very similar. I still feel that the information is more challenging than in previous years. Just again, because you just don't have the access. The beat writers, the team reporters, they're not in the facilities with scouts and with the personnel department. And obviously there was no combine this year, so you take that element out of the equation. And workouts, I believe the schools, all the workouts were done at schools, and they only allowed 3 maximum personnel per team. So information hasn't been easy. It's out there, and now you just kind of have to decide what's factual, what's a smoke screen, and that's kind of the toughest part about it.
Check it out, thehuddlereport.com. You can see Jason where he's ranked and amongst the nation's best prognosticators. Peter Traeger's name's floating around here. Impressive list and good stuff as always, Jason. And we'll just lead into kind of our first little groupthink discussion here. The top of this draft, is that going to really dictate where many of these dominoes are going to fall? A lot of rumors with quarterbacks, Mac Jones, Fields, etc. All these guys, the quarterback carousel, who's going where? And you can see the draft order on our screen. Talk to us about this. Is number 1 a no-brainer? And from there on, in the top 5 or 10, what's critical to figuring out the pieces to this puzzle in the first round?
I was talking to Jason earlier today. I think most people are pretty sure the number 1 and 2 are set with Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson going to the Jaguars and Jets. From talking to Jason earlier today, he thought the draft really starts at pick 3 with the 49ers, because whoever they take there is going to impact a lot of the picks that follow after them. Is that what you're thinking, Jason?
Yeah, absolutely. The theme on this draft, it's an offensive draft, and it's very quarterback top heavy. So depending on where these quarterbacks go, will kind of set the dominoes in place for the teams picking around those teams and further back. This possibly could be the first draft in NFL history where quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, that's never happened before. And there was 2 drafts. I believe the last one was in '99, where there was 5 quarterbacks going in the first round. I think you possibly could have 5 quarterbacks going in the top 10. So that's, I think, going to be the interesting dynamic on Thursday night.
Well, the New York Football Jets, I feel like they've been involved with many rumors the last 2 or 3 years. Oh, big name's going to come here, etc. Well, I bet you, I don't know how early you typically start your process, Jason, but you can share that with us. But a couple weeks ago, Sam Darnold out the door, goodbye, going to Carolina. Did that change some things in your book?
No, the Jets were taking a quarterback, whether Darnold was there or not. Zach Wilson's the guy. That's who's getting picked. It's not a secret. And I think Darnold, it's going to help his career getting out of New York. I think he was doomed to fail. Adam Gase ruined him. I don't think he ever gave him a fighter's chance there. So good for Darnold, good for the Jets, where they can kind of start fresh with a new regime, new coaching staff. And, Zach Wilson's been the guy for a while, and he'll be the pick on Thursday night.
Jarrad, what are your thoughts on the top of this draft? I mean, other than Jacksonville, I think we can all agree that we're projecting Lawrence to go there, barring some act of, I don't even know. He's going number 1. Lawrence is going to the Jags. It would be the biggest upset of the century if he did not. So after that, what are you keeping your eye on here? I know your Giants that are 11. We'll get to them momentarily, but a lot of buzz with the 49ers. Maybe they're trying to shop Garoppolo. I saw some things on the web. The Jimmy G thing just didn't work out. Who do you think is going to be the first quarterback off the board, Jarrad, I guess, other than Lawrence, of course?
Yeah, Lawrence, then Wilson, like Jason said. And then at number 3 there with San Francisco, I think the talk around the league right now is it'll be Mac Jones to the 49ers. Would I get excited about that as a 49? If I were a 49ers fan, I'm not entirely sure, but I think, that's a pretty solid guess at this point. It's after that for me, where I think it might get interesting for quarterbacks. I know Jason said they might go 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't think Atlanta will take one. That's just my opinion. I think they'll take Kyle Pitts. But then I think you have – because you look at some teams, then what's going to happen? Some teams that could move up, Denver, New England, Washington, Chicago, all kind of chasing quarterbacks. So does one of them move up then to grab one in the top 10? I think New England might try to move up there, get a Trey Lance. It's going to be interesting if one of those teams tries to move up. It's tough to project those trades, but I think that'll tell a lot of the story as well.
Hey, Emmett, I've seen Justin Fields, Ohio State quarterback, go anywhere as high as 3 and as low as the end of the first round. I feel like he's kind of a wild card, and I don't know. What are your thoughts on Fields, and are you agreeing with the Mac Jones call to the Niners?
Yeah, I think it could go that way. I think he'd be my favorite right now. If I'm saying who the 49ers are going to take, I think I'd make Jones the favorite, but I've seen Justin Fields going to the Niners. I wouldn't be surprised if Trey Lance went to the Niners. I think the interesting thing is I saw some odds today, and the odds of teams making a move in the first round, I think it's like Panthers, Broncos, Falcons in that order are the top 3 odds of teams making a trade in that first 10 picks. And I wouldn't be totally shocked if the Falcons traded out at number 4, if the Patriots or the Broncos threw a bunch of picks and a bunch of players at them and see them drop down a few spots and possibly even still get Pitts a few spots later. So I think that's where it gets interesting to see how aggressive the Broncos and Patriots are trying to move up to get the quarterback they want.
Hey, Jason, over to you. Kyle Pitts, it's rare to see a tight end ever go this high. I don't even know off the top of my head who's the highest tight end. Is he in the cards?
It's not rare. The earliest a tight end has ever been drafted is number 5.
Wow. So he could be the record holder.
It would be history in the making. Yeah.
So hear me out. Being a Titans fan, and I know some stuff. So Arthur Smith coaches the Falcons now, fellas. Former Titans offensive coordinator. He spent about 8 to 10 years with the Tennessee Titans as the tight ends coach before he took the OC job. And now he's in Atlanta. Jason, do you think Arthur Smith wants this playmaking, high-ceiling tight end in Atlanta? Him being a tight ends coach, he could really probably work wonders with him.
Yeah, so Arthur Smith, I think, wants Pitts. The problem is I'm not sure if the ownership wants the quarterback. So I think you might have 2 different factions within the organization. And I've been really trying to dig throughout the course of the day on this pick because it really is going to be the difference with, setting the next 2 or 3 picks into motion. So Atlanta is going to be down to Pitts or Trey Lance. There's a lot of buzz with Fields. I don't think it's Fields. I think it's Lance or Pitts to the Falcons. And I'm leaning Pitts, and I'll tell you why. The Falcons just restructured Matt Ryan's contract, all right, to save some salary cap this year. By doing that, they had to take on dead cap hits in future years. So let me just throw these numbers by you guys. And I just scribbled this down about an hour before coming on this podcast. But Matt Ryan's dead cap hit in this year is $65 million. In 2022, his dead cap hit is $40.2 million. Now, who cares, right? But let me put that in perspective. Carson Wentz popular guy around this neck of the woods. Everybody was saying, oh, the Eagles can't get rid of him, dead cap hit. His cap hit was a record in the NFL at the time, and it was $33.8 million in dead cap. All right. And they were lucky to get rid of him. There's no way that the Falcons are getting rid of Matt Ryan in the next 2 years. And that's why I think that if you're going to have that financial investment in that quarterback, you got to give him pieces and not get his replacement. So that's why I'm leaning Pitts, I think, instead of Lance.
That being said, I don't know if you all have heard this, but there's a big rumor mill of Atlanta potentially shopping Julio Jones. However, Julio Jones, for cap reasons and financial reasons, can't get traded till June. Will any of these picks in this first round between Atlanta maybe be a foreshadowing of what's the future for Julio Jones, Jason? I mean, are you taking that into consideration at all here?
So listen, this is what I found out about Atlanta. They don't want to get rid of Julio. I mean, he's a folk hero in Atlanta. They don't want to get rid of him, and they're not seeking to get rid of him. However, they're opening the communication for teams that, you know, can throw an offer out there so the Falcons can see, you know, thoughts of entertaining trading Julio. But they're not trying to get rid of him. They're just making it known that if they get the proper package back, they would consider it.
Interesting. Moving along here, just in the top 10 till we move outside of the top 10, are there any slam dunks in this 1 through 10 range that you guys see a fit for? For me, I kind of like Devontae Smith going to Detroit, obviously losing Kenny Golladay. You know, you bring in a new quarterback who really hasn't proven a lot outside of Sean McVay's scheme, in my opinion. So I kind of like Devontae Smith at Detroit. The Jarrad, you know, outside of Lawrence, obviously, and we talked about the Jets. Is there anybody that you would say, yeah, I think for sure this guy's going there?
I don't know. I don't see many. Not for me. I was really mixed beyond 3 and 4 there. I could really go a couple different ways with every one of those slots. So I can't sit here and tell you that I'm really convinced any one of those down the line, because we're gonna have to wait and see how some of those, you know, earlier picks play out and what the trades are going to be. I wasn't really confident any 5 through 10. I did like Pitts a lot to Atlanta there in that spot, but beyond that, not for me. I didn't have a lot of confidence when I was going through this. And,
Emmett, Jason, what are your thoughts?
Yeah,
there?
I'm kind of with Jarrad. I mean, even you're saying Smith to the Lions. If Jamar Chase doesn't go to the Bengals at 5, if they throw an offensive lineman in there, then Chase might be the receiver the Lions want. So I think it's all kind of dependent on the 4 pick and the 3 pick, and you know, and who's moving up. I don't think there's a lock in that first 10 picks except the 1 and 2 that we talked about.
Yeah, I mean, 3 through 9, definitely it's a crapshoot. I will say 10 if Patrick Surtain's on the board. Dallas, I think, you know, Surtain in Dallas is the guy. The problem is Denver needs a corner, Carolina needs a corner. Detroit, kind of an iffy spot. They're just bad. They have so many holes to fill. I think last year they tried to get out of the 3rd pick. They couldn't find a taker. Even for teams wanting to come up for quarterbacks, everybody just stood still. They took Okudah at 3. I think this is the year where you're going to see Detroit move down for Denver coming up, or possibly New England coming up.
Well, things get really interesting locally and in the NFC East, because you have Dallas at 10 as of right now with no trades, the Giants at 11, and the Eagles at 12. So, Mr. Hedes, your Giants are on the clock at 11. Who's your ideal pick? If you know, just pending, you know, obviously you don't know what's going to happen, but who is realistically the best fit for the Giants at 11?
Well, I think you're seeing a couple different things right now, but you know, the highest percentage of mocks are probably going receiver in that spot. Now, what receiver? You know, I'll take Chase out of the equation because I don't think he's going to be there. And so then the 2 Alabama receivers, Waddle and Devontae Smith. You know, which one do you like there? For me personally, if they were both on the board, I would go with Waddle first. Not that I don't like Devontae Smith. Clearly, I'm I'm a Notre Dame fan, so I saw a lot of him on January 1st.
The back of his jersey.
I know, yeah. Emmett and I know what he can do. His weight concerns me a little bit. He's a little light. I like Waddle a little bit more if they're both on the board. I know, Joe Judge has those Alabama connections. We know that. So if there's 2 Alabama receivers there, I do know he likes Devontae Smith a lot. Gettleman loves Micah Parsons out of Penn State. My concern there for the Giants is they try to, we've heard a couple character concerns there. The Giants try to stay away from a lot of those guys, but I do know Gettleman likes him a lot. But the last first round linebacker for the Giants, Carl Banks, 1983. So, I just think it's going to be a receiver. Galladay in the offseason, Kyle Rudolph at the tight end position. They're really trying to make this a year. I think they're going to give Daniel Jones every opportunity to succeed on the offensive side of the football. You got Barkley coming back. They're going to try to load him up, and this is going to be his opportunity. And if it doesn't work out, it's not going to be because he didn't have the weapons and that he didn't have the opportunity to succeed. So I think it's going to be an offensive weapon, and giving Daniel Jones that opportunity to thrive and show that he's going to be the guy. And we'll see.
Hey, Jason and then Emmett, comment on any of these NFC East teams right in the middle here, and I'll just bullet point kind of some of your thoughts here. And the Eagles could go in many directions, I think, here, and I think it's also noteworthy. It's a really deep class for receivers and corners too. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, let me talk about the Eagles, because Jason doesn't care about the Eagles. He can talk about any of the other 30 teams and know more than most people anywhere would. So I know more about the Eagles. They're the only team I kind of know about. But I'm kind of with Jarrad. I think if any of those top 3 receivers, Chase, Smith, Waddle, drop to the Eagles, I think they take them. I kind of doubt that happens. And you talked about a deep receiver class. I've seen mocks with as many as 7 receivers taken in the first round. But I think after those first 3, I don't know if anybody's worth taking up as high as 12. So my thought is the 3 receivers will be off the board, and the Eagles maybe go with the quarterback, maybe J.C. Horn of South Carolina. That's kind of who I'm thinking they might get there. But yeah, that's kind of my thought. Without those top 3 receivers, I don't think they take one. Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, as we were talking about earlier today, I think it's an Alabama receiver or somebody like J.C. Horn. I don't know. Say last year the Eagles spent a first-round pick. I hate putting the same position back-to-back years with the team's first-round pick. I don't like doing it, but I do think the Eagles like Jalen Waddle. And if he is there, I think they might take him. I think they like Waddle are just a little bit better than Devontae Smith, just because of the size. I mean, Jalen Reagor's no big receiver, so you're kind of getting 2 smaller guys with Smith and Reagor there. But listen, if they go Jalen Waddle, you'll have Jalen Hurts to Jalen Reagor and Jalen Waddle. So there you go, Philly.
Yeah, I mean, eventually you got to hit one of them, right?
That's right.
Could have had Justin Jefferson, but I don't want to pour salt.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Since we took Jefferson last year, I don't think we need a receiver. Or, never mind. We didn't take Justin Jefferson last year.
Everybody thought you were going to take Justin Jefferson.
Everybody thought they were going to take Justin Jefferson.
Not me. I had Brandon Ayuk going to the Eagles in my mock draft, but
yeah,
he would have been good too.
Jefferson guy had a pretty good year.
Well, looking in this mid-range of the first round, the teams, and maybe we'll talk about the teams in the early 20s for time purposes. Jason, what sticks out as kind of the biggest mess here to try to figure out? Do you see anything with New England? Are they going to be in consideration for a quarterback if something shakes out differently?
Yeah, New England by far. If you're looking at that like 11 to 20 range, I just don't know how much longer they can stay where they are and not try to improve the quarterback position. Newton signed for 1 year. You have nothing after him. Now, they spent all of free agency upgrading the team. The money that they threw around the free agents was just sick. 2 tight ends, 2 new receivers. I think that's foreshadowing a possible quarterback with this first-round pick. However, I'm not certain that one's going to fall to them. They may have to make some maneuvering up the draft board. But yeah, I mean, I think
am hearing a lot of people talking about New England trading up because we talked about it earlier. Those top 5 quarterbacks, they could be gone in the top 10 picks. So they might not have a choice except to trade up if they're looking for a quarterback.
Yeah. So we know Denver wants a quarterback, right? So I think 7 and 8, Detroit, Carolina, that's your hot zone to try to get ahead of Denver. I think New England wants Fields. I know Denver wants Fields. So will New England try to get up ahead of Denver for Justin Fields? That's the question. If I'm Denver, I'd move 2 or 3 spots up. Like I'd even go from 9 to 7 just to try to ensure you get your guy.
Why is it that the greatest basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan, is a horrible GM? And why does John Elway just pick the worst quarterbacks? Why is this happening? Like this, man, the Drew Lock experience, in my opinion, is over. It just doesn't have it. There's been no progression. I mean, so maybe he'd be one of the best backups in the league, I think, and maybe float around in like a Fitzpatrick role on teams that just kind of stink and need someone to bridge the gap and maybe get hot once in a while. But, you got Cortland Sutton coming on, a decent defense. Denver needs to hit a quarterback right sooner than later, I think, too.
Look at the division they play in. You got Mahomes, you got former NFL MVP, you got Justin Herbert, last year's Rookie of the Year. I mean, Drew Lock's not going to take them past those teams. They need to upgrade. So this is the time to do it.
Yeah. Agreed. Jarrad, what do you think about this mid-range here and, thoughts on New England or anybody else?
Yeah, not just New England. I mean, you got teams, Washington, Chicago, they're all not, they have no long-term options right now on the table. Really. So you could look at any one of those teams too. I've seen some mocks of Chicago trying to move up to get Fields. There's a couple more teams out there than just New England. Obviously, I think they've got to go up and get a quarterback, whether it's Fields, whether it's Trey Lance. Definitely think they need. But there's, Chicago's just begging for a long-term option at the quarterback position there. We know how Trubisky worked out or didn't work out. So yeah, there's a couple more teams there in Washington, obviously, as well. So we'll see what happens there. And then as you move further down, I think we might have a couple Steelers fans watching this. So I was going to talk about that for a little bit. I think, I know when I was going through my notes and things like that, I had another Alabama guy, Najee Harris at running back. He just seems like a perfect fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's another guy I saw a lot of on January 1st, and Hurdle and that Notre Dame guy, and he just seems like he just seems like a perfect Pittsburgh Steeler kind of guy. So if there's any Steelers fans watching, that's what I was thinking about them. I don't know if everybody else. It's tough
Jerome
when you get
Bettis
down.
Look to him. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly.
Jerome Bettis.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I agree. Jason, talk about some of these running backs. Harris seems like the kind of smash mouth between the tackles guy Pittsburgh likes to target. James Conner, great story. Just, kind of fizzled out, didn't hit his ceiling. Granted, the offensive line and the run game has been pretty dinged up in Pittsburgh, but, Jalen Samuels had opportunities. Benny Snell had ample opportunity to really show the organization something. No one really solidified themselves as capable lead back of the future of the Steelers team. So is this the right time to grab a running back for Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I think it is. Positions that Pittsburgh will be looking at, they'll be looking for offensive line, they'll be looking for cornerback, they'll be looking for running back. So I think when they're on the clock, whatever one of those 3 positions presents the best value, I think that would be the direction they go. To echo what Jarrad said, I do agree that Najee Harris would be, as far as the running backs go, I think he would be the better fit in Pittsburgh than Travis Etienne or Williams from North Carolina. But I can't argue with that. I think Harris is a great fit.
Justin, what about, I've got something we could throw out there. A lot of Penn State fans in the area also. What about Micah Parsons? Jarrad mentioned him, a chance with the Giants. I've seen him mentioned to the Raiders and to the Dolphins and the Redskins. What do you guys think? Where's Micah going? And he's a Harrisburg High School graduate, Penn State player. What do we think about him?
Yeah, someone, go ahead.
Yeah. The problem, talent-wise, Parsons a top 10 player in this draft. It's everything else that might cause him to slide as far as his off-the-field concerns go. They're well documented. You could probably just Google and find out some of this stuff. It's just a matter of, I think he's going to drop a little bit. It's just a matter of how far. Possible landing spots for Parsons. New England at 15, Arizona 16, Las Vegas 17, Washington 19. So I think like that 15 to 20 range would kind of be the area where you would first start considering him.
How about one more? How about one more Penn Stater? Where do you put Freiermuth in the mix in this draft, just in general? Do you have any decent fits for him, even if he's not, a first rounder? But what are your thoughts on him? Are we talking second round, maybe?
Yeah, day two, round 2 or 3. But I actually have another Penn State guy that possibly could crack the first round, Jason Owe, the edge rusher. When my mock comes out on Thursday, wouldn't be surprised if you see his name in there as well as another Penn State alum.
Well, Jarrad, we have to ask him about our Notre Dame guy there.
Yeah, I was just
Jeremiah.
I was just going to say, that's about enough for the Penn State. I think we've hit the time limit on that. Our man, Owusu Koromoa, the Raiders, that's an option there. Washington, but the Raiders, I've seen a lot of him to the Raiders. I think Gruden likes him a lot. I think they like him a lot there. What an athlete, though. We'll see. He's a lot of good memories from his time in South Bend.
Oh, yeah.
If it's one thing I've learned about Mike Mayock and John Gruden, they love speed in any portion of their team.
So did Al Davis. That's why
Al Davis.
Darius Hayward Bay.
Yep.
Henry Ruggs.
You made a good call on Jason Owe. Baltimore, Matthew Judon's gone for the Ravens. They have a little bit of a void to fill. I think I like that call. I think that could be a decent landing spot for him. Mm-hmm. Anything in this before we wrap up the last portion of this first round? And is this for your strategy with the way your mock is scored? Are you just trying to hit first rounders at this point?
Yeah, so the way the contest works, for anybody that doesn't know, you get 1 point for every player that you pick in your mock that is selected in the first round, and you get 2 additional points if you match player to team. So when I put my mock together, I basically whittle it down to about 33, 35 names that I could see going in the first round. And that's basically my list that I work off of then. And then I start taking that list and trying to put the pieces together, players to teams. So, and that's my process. That's the process that I've been using for a couple decades now. So it's not so much getting the prospects in the first round. It's trying to match them to the team. And if you pull that up, Justin, can you pull that the screenshot of the huddle report up?
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody gets to see on the 2020, but there's like a total score, and then there's the M and the P. So the P is for how many of the players are in the first round, and the M is for correct matches. Now, 13, that's just an insane amount. If you're able to get 10 direct hits, like that's a good mock draft. Like people say, oh, you only hit 10 out of 32. That stunk. No, 10 out of 32 is really good in mock draft contests. So I always try to hit 27 to 28 of the first round picks and 10 direct matches. That's what
you have to take trades into consideration, right?
You do, and sometimes I do in my mocks. However, it's burnt me more times than it has helped me. So I think I'm just going to do, especially for this year, I'm just going to do a straight mock draft, and I'll insinuate a couple of possible trades in my narratives when I write about the picks, but I don't think I will actually make trades in the mocks. You can do it though. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, we have to close up shop here, so I'll go around the horn real quick. Jarrad, anything we didn't touch on about the first round in general? Any hot takes? Anything at all that you're looking forward to the most here?
I'm looking forward to the quarterbacks, which we talked about at length. I think that's the story of the draft here. Like you said, a guy like Fields just fascinates me. We've seen him all over the board, and it's kind of like this year for him. We saw until he didn't play enough games, and then he played that Clemson game, and then he was the best thing ever. And so. It's going to be fascinating to see where he goes and just how some of these quarterbacks play out. That's what I'm most interested in.
Jason, hit us with a hot take before I close out with our sports editor here. What's your hottest take, your boldest kind of prediction? Are you able to share at this point? I don't know. You never know what major media network stalking your material.
Yeah, I don't think I can offer any hot takes because I've yet to finalize my mock draft. I've kind of just penciled out thoughts on paper right now, and whatever I have written down now, I can guarantee you it's going to be changing by the time I have to have it in, which is 1 a.m. on Thursday morning. I have to submit it. So at that point, if any news breaks after 1 a.m. on Thursday, everybody in this contest is just kind of out of luck. So we're all in the same time frame. It's not like I can change stuff the day of. Wednesday night when I go to bed, you have to have that mock draft turned in. But listen, last year was a fun draft given the circumstances where you saw the GMs at home and you saw the commissioner from his basement. I'm kind of looking forward to getting the live audience back and getting the NFL draft what it used to be, where you have the draft picks on stage, commissioner, you have fans cheering or booing. The network coverage is live on site. I think that's just going to add a whole different dynamic to it. So I'm looking forward to getting to the NFL draft back what it used to be.
Well, I wish we could put it back on Saturdays. I don't like this Thursday night start. So.
Yeah.
But thanks so much for joining us, Jason. Appreciate it. I'll let Emmett or you, tag team this. Emmett, where can they find the exclusive Jason Boris mock draft? In the Times News?
Yeah, but before we get to that, got one final parting note here. Brad Hurley, who's been with us the last couple of years doing this, couldn't make it tonight, but he sent us a text, and he wants me to just read all the Times News fans out there that his statement is, if the Eagles take Kwity Paye, that I'm done with them, he said. And he's been an Eagle fan all his life. Kwity Paye is a Michigan edge rusher. I've seen some mock drafts with him going to the Eagles. We talked about cornerbacks and receivers. I think Brad wants a cornerback or a receiver. So that's Brad's word on the draft.
So where's the mock draft going to be and when?
Mock draft. Jason Boris, Thursday's Times News. It'll be in the print edition and it'll be released online somewhere around 11 a.m. on Thursday morning, maybe even a little earlier. We try to get it out there. So www.tnonline.com is where you can find it, and also buy a copy of the Times News and see his picks. Not only his picks, some good commentary on why he thinks the picks will go where they're going.
Awesome.
And hopefully I can, I've kind of been, last couple of years, you can see by the scores on the screen, 41, 42, 41. I need to improve here. So, hopefully I can get a little bit more of an improvement on that and get back to up the standings where I was the last couple of years. So that's the goal.
Best of luck to you. And thanks again. Check Jason's article out in the Times News on Thursday. So we're about to close up shop here. So for Jarrad Hedes, Jason Boris, and Emmett McCall, I'm Justin Carlucci. Enjoy the NFL draft, everyone, and thanks for listening.